You got blood on my suit.
Like every other class in Team Fortress 2, the spy has access to a lot of different loadouts, but the one I want to try out today is apparently called the Dishonored loadout. It combines the Eternal Reward with the Cloak and Dagger and the Electron J. Seems like a unique way to approach the spy, so let's give it a shot. After giving it a go for a while, I can see the potential of this loadout. You got the silent kills from the Yer, which means you can find way more success when an enemy team is all bunched up together. Then there's the ability to hide in plain sight by walking around as the class you just killed, which makes for a more believable disguise. Of course, there's a possibility of a jump stab, which is now silent, yet it still feels great to land. And then there's the CND, which lets you experience the thrill of the hunt by allowing you to observe the enemy team for as long as you need in order to go for a well-timed pick. Sometimes, camping out a spot works so well, the enemy team literally hands you their back for you to stab. Finally, the Electron J helps in reducing the amount of downtime spent on waiting for the cloak to recharge, which is much appreciated when you're running such cloak-hungry weapons. There's a lot of fun to be had with this Dishonored loadout, like this moment where I'm pretending to be this recently deceased turtling engineer in order to give a false sense of security. Or this moment where I was able to keep a chain stab going on the capture point thanks to the silent kills. I've never played Spy like this before, but it's pretty fun.
Oh, please. Surprise. Oh, merde. Oh!
I think I've had enough. Even though I am having fun sneaking around like I'm in some sort of stealth game, there are too many times where the enemy team seemingly knows exactly where I'm hiding, where they make the most sudden moves imaginable and just throw off my timing. And with that cloak meter being tied to movement, as well as having less cloak in general, sometimes it can feel like I'm building up to a killing spree that will just never happen.
Hey Spy, it's Pauling.
Wait, what's that?
Take a look at this.
There's no such thing as a Dishonored loadout?
This is a big one. Don't screw it up.
They were talking about a game called Dishonored 2, not Team Fortress 2?
It is I, Francis the Talking France.
And it has everything that's fun about this specific spy loadout without having to deal with the unpredictableness that comes from a multiplayer game?
You did it.
Yeah, I could try that. Alright, after giving it a go for a while, I can see why I had to check this game out. You aren't exactly the spy here, but you can play as a spy type character named Corvo, who has access to a good variety of supernatural powers. If you decide to grab the Shadow Kill power, you gain access to silent assassinations by way of removing enemy corpses from the picture, all in one fell swoop. With the Possession power, you can pretend to be a guard and walk amongst the enemy in plain sight. Of course, this game wouldn't be worth talking about if it didn't let you perform a jump stab, but it does, and it's great. And then there's the ability to scope out the situation by crouching in the unseen corners of the map, experiencing the thrill of the hunt as you plan out your next move. Sometimes camping out a spot works so well, the enemy team will literally hand you their unconscious bodies for you to stab. Finally, your arsenal of crossbows, pistols, grenades, mines, and other gadgets can help in reducing the amount of downtime spent sneaking around, and they can even be used to open up a new place to explore. There's a lot of fun to be had with this Dishonored 2 game, like this moment where I know the enemy's movements and I'm able to get away with a stab. or this moment where I throw a body off of a cliff undetected, thus triggering the shadow kill ability and cleaning up all loose ends. But besides the similarities in how you play this game and how you play the spy with the so-called Dishonored loadout, there are many other reasons to give the game Dishonored 2 a shot, such as the other powers you can acquire that I have yet to highlight. To start things off, there's the Blink power, probably the most memorable and most useful power in the game. A power that lets you teleport basically anywhere on the map, as long as you can reach it. Because maps have a lot of verticality to them, it's a very useful and fun tool that lets you reach the higher points of the map, which are typically safer, and thus it becomes easier to spot enemy locations and locate alternate paths. And as a spy-approved bonus, since you can position yourself instantly with Blink, you can even pseudo trick-stab enemies if you time it right. I mentioned human possession before, but that power can also include things like bloodflies, rats, and even fish, allowing you to move swiftly and undetected, or to access alternate routes that often lead to goodies. With dark vision, it becomes possible to see enemies through walls, which makes moving across the map without being spotted way more manageable. If upgraded, dark vision can make basically anything you'd want to grab or be aware of easily visible, cutting down the amount of time spent searching around in a room. And then there's Bend Time, which is just as overpowered as it sounds. Groups of enemies no longer become a threat when you could take them all out at once without any fear of retaliation. If you make a mistake and get caught out, then time can be stopped in order to make a quick getaway. It's even possible to slow down time, confuse an enemy's sense of direction, and make them shoot themselves without ever laying a finger on them. That's just one example of how far you can go with these powers, and how much you can mess around with the physics, the enemies, and the tools at your disposal. Creativity is often rewarded here. You just gotta think outside the box sometimes. Anyway, by the time you reach the endgame, and assuming you've been collecting as many runes as possible along the way to the final mission, the difference between Corvo at the start of the game and Corvo at the end of the game should feel staggering. Now, being overpowered is fun and all, but the truly great thing about Dishonored 2 is the fact that all these great and fun abilities aren't even necessary to beat the game. You can straight up choose not to receive any powers at all, and the game will respect your choice, which I think sums up this game pretty well.
I never asked for your help, and I don't need it now.
Another surprise. So be it.
Another example of respecting player choices lies within this mission, where you have to infiltrate this elaborate mansion that has moving floors and walls and rooms, and all of that is triggered with the simple pull of a lever. So on my first playthrough, I would pull the levers and would try to map out the layout of everything in my head, and I had a fun time doing that. But I later found out that you don't even need to engage with the levers at all. Just break the glass ceiling and you can start moving in between the walls of the mansion, without ever shifting a single room, and that's an accepted way of tackling this level. This philosophy of respecting the player's decisions also applies to the story. You can choose to read every single note found in Dunwall and Karnaca, read every letter that paints a better picture of the world around you, and listen to all audiographs left out in the open. Or you can choose to ignore all of that and just focus on the mission. Basically, every mission involves locating a key target and either killing them or sparing them. An action you decide to take can sometimes have an immediate consequence reflected in the world. As an example, there's this one target that can be saved via an antidote, and if you save them, you get access to more lore from them, as well as some helpful items. But I decided to kill them anyway because that's just how I wanted to approach the situation. As the number of enemies I assassinated increased, the bleaker the world became. But that's exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see how far the game would go in accommodating my aggressive playstyle. I wanted to see this guy get evaporated by the wall of light, to throw this guy into the ocean, to use bottles left out in the open to my advantage, to wait for a dust storm to kick in to mask my footsteps, to throw this guy off a cliff, to teleport long distances, to save this district's future, to chuck a slice of fish, to become a fish, to play as an entirely different character with their own unique set of powers, and last but not least, to land a stab from way up in the sky and do it without getting caught. And I got all of that and more.
What's that?
So if you want to experience some of that for yourself, then Dishonored 2 is the game for you. And if perhaps you want just a taste of that, then you also know which Team Fortress 2 spy loadout to use. Just don't expect everything to go your way.